so fine and I really want to make you mine. Perhaps I should explain. My name is Enola Holmes. I started a detective agency.
Oh, well, but you're a girl. Tell me,
Yes,
might your brother be free?
my brother. Well, I have not a single case. Sherlock's latest seems to be vexing him.
Hello. Oh my God, I have those things behind you.
What? Wait, what thing?
The cabinet.
From Urban? It's so good.
Thank you. It took forever to deliver though, but I love it.
Forever. I waited months.
Yeah, I know, but it's worth the wait. It's so cool.
You know what else is worth the wait? Me getting to sit down and talk to you. I've been waiting to talk to you for so long. Congratulations.
Oh,
You're such a badass. This movie
thank you.
huge. I loved it. I was reading that you said that your relationship with your older brother actually helped prepare you for this movie. And so because you spend so much time with Henry, I wanted to know in what ways is Henry Cavill like your older brother?
Well, my gosh, I'd have to say the opposite. In what ways is Charlie related to it? But Henry's an introvert, so is my brother, so is Sherlock. So as a collective, they're very similar people. They have very witty banter. They're very quick, on their feet, very quiet and subtle and observant and detailed. And I think that's what makes them so layered. You always want to know more about them. And so I had to really use the relationship and dynamic I have with my brother to kind of use those same tools that I have been given, like growing up with him, and use them on Henry. Because Henry didn't grow up with sisters, so I had to kind of put him into tip-top shape.
Well, you definitely did. Your chemistry pops off on screen. And so many of the scenes are just so good in this movie. The music hall scene is one of my favorites. And I read that you actually wanted to go into that scene clean. And so you didn't read the script before.
No.
And I was wondering, do you do that in any of your other projects like Stranger Things?
Yeah, sometimes I say I don't want to go into a space. Just let's film me go into the space and see what happens. But for this specifically, yeah, I just wanted to feel really immersed. And I also wanted to feel shocked by the surrounding of the people. And so I didn't go into the set itself until they started rolling camera.
That's so cool. Is there a scene in Stranger Things that you remember that you did that for?
No, I wouldn't say so. No, I wouldn't. And I'm sure there is somewhere down there. I don't know if I can remember off the spot.
It's hard to remember.
I'm so Enola focused right now that Stranger Things, when people ask me, I'm literally, it's a whole nother world to me that I have to like dig into and remember.
Totally. No, but that is so cool. And what else I think is really cool is that you and Enola Holmes are very similar. You were saying that you were both brutally honest and you're very dry. And the more that you grow, the more this beautiful Enola Holmes character grows. So I wanted to know, because this is a second movie, what in your personal growth are we going to see sort of shine through Enola in the second installment?
Well, I think this time round we both, well, specifically Enola, she wants to be taken more seriously, so she starts her own detective agency. And just as, no one is leaving her, no one is trusting her and giving her the opportunity, she is kind of cut her losses and she's going to move back home. And just as she does, in the nick of time, a young girl needs her help and takes her on a very big adventure. And I think that it's very nice because it is very much the same situation with my career. I just needed to be given an opportunity, and just in the nick of time, Stranger Things did. So,
Why are you here? Is it my case or your own?
Both. It seems our cases are connected. Shall we?
I know you like to bring your dog Cal on set for emotional support. So I was wondering if Cal was on set for Enola Holmes too. And do you lean on Cal more for a role like this versus a more intense role like Superman or Geralt in The Witcher?
Look, Cal's he's my companion, he's my buddy. And so it's our lives are intertwined now to such a point where if he's not around, it's strange. If I hear someone knock on a door and I don't hear a bark, that's weird to me. I was like, oh, something's missing. And even though we do spend almost all our time together, when it comes to set, he's never on set because, as I say, things go clang or bump or whatever. I don't want him barking halfway through a take because sometimes dogs don't belong in a certain scene, especially with his bark, which can be, it's not something you want to hear with a hangover. Let's put it that way.
That's funny, during a hangover. Well, thanks for answering that. Last time you and I spoke, I remember asking you if you had spoken to The Rock about Black Adam when I was talking to you about The Witcher. And The Rock just keeps saying that the hierarchy in DC is changing. And so I wanted to know, do you think the hierarchy in DC is changing?
Only time will tell. This is the great thing about what we do. It's one of those things where we go off the audience, we go off the feed, we go off the success of stuff, we go off the feel of things, and we go off the storytelling. And it's never a quick answer. And so watch this space. We'll see what happens. It's a very exciting time for DC. And I feel very privileged to be a part of it.
Well, we're privileged to watch you in that role. Do you have a personal opinion aside from the fans? Like, would you like to see a change?
I'm all for making sure that the storytelling is true to the nature of what superheroes are, which is giving people an opportunity to have a great time watching something in the cinema or at home, hopefully in the cinema, because these are such big bombastic movies. It's great to see in the cinema, and then leave the cinema feeling good, and not only feeling good, but feeling like they want to do good. And that's the beauty of superheroes, is that they represent the best of us in different degrees and different facets of. And so to leave the cinema feeling that way, I think can only, one, it just feels amazing. It feels amazing to want to go do nice things. And then when you do, the feeling you get, because people feel great when you do nice stuff to them, and that makes you feel good. And it becomes this perpetual cycle, which I'm sure every generation says, but I think we need that right now. And I think it'd be really helpful. So that's all that I really care about. Whatever happens, as long as we end up giving the audience that's the key.
I love it. Well, you gave the audience a great story by being Sherlock Holmes in Enola Holmes 2. I read that you were so enamored with the attention to detail on set that during lunch breaks, you didn't even leave set. You would stay on set and you'd either like read a book. So I was wondering, did you take anything from set, or did you learn anything?
I was so enamored I stole stuff. No, I did not take anything from set. But did I learn anything? That's a good question. I'm sure there was a couple of things which I was particularly fascinated by. Off the top of my head right now, I cannot remember them. There's so much going on. It's tough to cast my mind back to what was a year ago now. But the set itself was extraordinary. And yes, you said it right. Sort of in between with camera setups and everything, no matter how long they took, it was so wonderful, that set. I could sit there quite happily and relax. As long as I wasn't in the way of the crew or anything, trying to do their jobs, I could happily sit there and relax and just absorb the extraordinary sort of Sherlockiness of it. And it was fun. It was fun to discover all these weird contraptions and devices which they had hidden everywhere.
Mate, that's my new favorite adjective, Sherlockiness.
Yeah, it's probably the wrong way to say it, but it's what came to mind.
That's the best way to say it. Amazing. Henry, always such a pleasure to get to sit down and talk to you. Thank you so much, and congratulations on this movie.
I fear she's tangled with the wrong people.
Posh girls like you don't belong in this fight.
Posh or not, one thing I am good at is fighting.
She likes causing trouble, doesn't she?
Don't be so desperate to prove yourself, Enola.
But it's important. I know what that's like to feel alone, to be ignored. No one else cares for these girls. But I think I've made things worse.
Nonsense.
I was reading that you actually gave Millie Bobby Brown the freedom to experiment during takes. Mm-hmm. And because Millie Bobby Brown and Enola Holmes are so similar, I read that you told her during one take. Was that more Enola or was that more Millie? I was wondering, how did you distinguish the two, and what are the similarities and differences between them?
Lord. Well, sometimes it's because there's something she does that's a little too contemporary. There's one laugh that I think is in there that I'm pretty sure is an Enola laugh, and not a Millie laughed on an Enola laugh. Sometimes, when you are, when she's working very instinctively and freely, sometimes she can slip a tiny bit into herself. On the whole, though, yeah, she manages it. I mean, the challenges are, sometimes it's about stance. At the time, with the clothes we wore, one walked in a certain way. Even though she's sort of, looser in her behavior, you can push that too far, and it becomes something that's not period correct. There is a lovely moment in the fight in the forest where, having thrown a couple of really good jujitsu moves, she goes, "Yes!" And that is Millie, having only had an hour to learn those moves, triumphantly recording the fact that she's managed it. That is Millie. But it was so good. And actually, again, because, as you say, there's so much parallel between the characters, quite often you can include something like that because it feels part of her journey,
Yeah, that was a really cool tidbit. Thank you for sharing that. It's awesome. I love what you have done with this film. You're a director who, made the actors on set actually learn how to make matches. I love your attention to detail and the lengths that you go to bring a story to life. And because we see more of Millie and Henry together in this film, Enola and Sherlock, I was wondering what you did to foster that relationship. Were there any bonding exercises that you made Henry and Millie do?
Yes, no, I didn't do that. In the old days, when you were setting up a TV show, you used to send the cast out to go bowling. That was one of the classic things people used to do, which is fun, and it works. I would get them out, or send them off to do things. But no, we didn't do that. They're pros, and they didn't need that. But they did spend time together, and I did introduce them and make sure they hung out a bit together in the same way I did that with him and with Millie and Louis. They had learned a lot about each other from working on the first film. And also the power of teasing. Millie teases Henry quite a lot. And that's one of the things that we do to get to know each other when it's done in kindness. So just a little bit of discussion, some rehearsal. The thing about rehearsals is don't necessarily mean you need to rehearse the scene. You probably shouldn't know too much about the scene you're going to do, apart from learning the lines, but you can never know too much about what happened to you before that moment. You need to understand what your relationship is like. And so I did sit down and get them to talk about, or encourage them to talk about what they thought their family life was, how close they were or not as they were children, how they both felt differently about their mother. Some things were private and kept between one-on-one, and sometimes you share. It's a process of building a real and, I suppose, a kind of three-dimensional background and character. It all helps.
What a beautiful process, and I feel like you definitely see that through this film. It's very exciting. I think people are going to love seeing them sort of bounce and banter and tease each other, like you were saying. Yeah. This film is a lot more dangerous and grittier. And I know that you said you set out to make a more grittier, dangerous version. Why for the second one, I was wondering?
Well, it was sort of inevitable because one moment in the first film, she lives in the country. It was quite a rural, innocent story. Now, it would be kind of whimsical were a young woman of 17 alone in London, in Victorian London in the 1880s. That's going to get gritty. Unless you've got a lot of money, you've got to pay the rent. You've got to find somewhere to live. And in this case, also, what would be the point of telling a story that was just about the same kind of class and background as her? I wanted to take her into a different world. And the second book, The Left-Handed Lady, as well as planting in us the idea of a missing young woman, also explores the East End of the time and the dangers that lie there. So that it seemed like an obvious next step.